6-year on staff at K-State. Got a chance to play football here at K-State as well. And we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic tonight. Just talking about the possibility of having a relationship with God in college. But I was thinking about something, I saw some people over there trying some things, saying athletically. And, there's a lot of different things that I think through. I'm like, man, is that even possible for me to do? Like, I know I don't have that ability, saying just to bend down on one knee. I tore my ACL when I was playing football, so I ain't got no flexibility no more. You know what I'm saying? I can't bend down like that. But I was thinking about some other things that are possible or impossible for me, and honestly, there's a few of them. First off, it's impossible for me to just eat one Oreo. Just saying. I'm just gonna have fun, and then it turns into like 17 or 70. Never know. Another one is this, I can't get on my phone and check a text message or something like that without switching over to social media, you know what I mean? It's tough. It's man, I'm fighting myself. I'm Instagram, it's right there, it's close. You know what I mean? I think it's impossible for a lot of people, to check their phones without checking their email. Another one is this, the SpongeBob meme. I was seeing this going around, is it even possible for this thing to go away? This thing is everywhere. You know what I mean? I don't even know what's going on with that. That happened a long time ago. But another one that I didn't think was possible is this dude, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, give it up for him. Awesome people. I didn't think it was possible for him to actually take an L, but the dude took an L this last week. But that's the last time, right? He's going all the way to say the Chiefs are going to do well this season. I'm excited to check it out. Another one that I didn't think was possible, actually happened here recently, was, man, for me to get a chance to date this girl. It was a deep ball, you know what I'm saying? I was way behind the three-point line. I Steph Curry'd that bug, you know what I'm saying? I took a shot. She lives out in Virginia. I had a chance to ask her on a date, take her out. And then me and her have been dating for the last few months, and it's been a joy just getting to know her. But we're talking about things that are possible or impossible. And tonight we're going to be talking about a very specific thing that is possible or impossible. We're going to be answering a question. If you've been with us the last few weeks, we've been talking about these different questions that typically people in college have. And so we've been talking about, man, what is God really like? Questions like, man, how, does this faith thing really work? We've been talking about, man, is the Bible even relevant to my life? And so tonight, I'm excited to unpack a question that I hear on a regular basis, but it's just this. Is it even possible to follow Christ in college? Is it even possible to follow Christ in college? And even initially for me, I hear that question, I'm like, that's a completely fair question. I hear a lot of people asking that, and honestly for myself, I ask myself that a lot, even when I was initially coming into school. But I want you all to kind of discuss amongst yourself why this would even be a question, and so discuss what are some things about college that can seem to make pursuing God difficult. And so turn to the people around you. I'll give you a couple minutes to discuss what are some things about college, the environment that we're in, that kind of makes it seem like it's harder to pursue God. And hopefully it helps you gain some perspective. You hear from some other people around you. It's a relevant question for us, even as we think about this idea of having a relationship with God. As I mentioned before, honestly, for me, coming into college, and this is a really relevant question for me. See, I grew up in Houston, Texas, and got a chance to play football here at K-State, so that's what brought me up here to Manhattan. And for me, when I was growing up, faith wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something that was important for me, and even stepping onto the college campus. And I really began to wrestle with, when I stepped on campus, man, what does it look like for me to make the most of these years, in college? And around that time, I got introduced to this idea of faith and growing in my faith in college. And I remember, man, just being torn kind of in two different directions. Because on one hand, I wanted to make the most out of my years in college, and I knew faith was going to play a role in that, but I had the question of, man, is it even possible for me to even do this, during my time in college? I was a football player, so that ate up a lot of my schedule. Was under Bill Snyder, so we worked hard, day in and day out. And then, man, I was also an engineering student, and so that ate up a lot of my time. And I was up late studying, and day after day, and getting ready for tests and stuff like that. And then also, kind of along with that, I was social, man. I was involved, on campus. I was doing different things. I was involved. And so, man, my time was really eating up. And then also, man, along with that, man, my friend group, kind of the people that I was around, even coming in to college, man, I remember the guys in my apartment, we kind of had a name for our apartment. It's called the 102. And the 102 is basically like a kicking spot. So basically people would be coming around the 102, and then hanging out and doing a lot of things, honestly, that didn't connect well with me growing in my faith. Man, so I had a lot of influences, even in my life, that made me ask the question, hey, is it even possible for me to have a relationship with God in college? Not only that, but I also had habits that I was bringing into college that really, man, I thought, man, I would never break through that. I would never, man, be able to overcome. And man, it made me ask the question, man, is it even possible, to follow Christ in college? And you look at this word possible, and this is kind of the definition. Possible is this word able to be done within the power or capacity of someone or something. And I guarantee you, for a lot of us in this room, even if you think about that word possible, it's like, man, and we can get to this place where we're like, man, I cannot do this, man, in college, in this context. For whatever reason. For some of us, it's, man, I don't have the time, man. My schedule is super busy, man. For some of us, it's like, man, temptation inwardly, man. I could never get over in this area of my life. For some of us, it's the people around. We're like, man, you don't realize, man, what this would do, man, to the dynamics of the relationships in my life. For whatever reason, we're like, man, this isn't possible. And for some of us, we think it's possible, but we're like, man, I don't even know if I necessarily want to do that. I don't know if it's necessarily even worth it. And I want to say for both of those people, and tonight, I want to make the case that it really, really is possible. But when you look at this definition of possible, it's not possible through this definition. It's not able to be done within the power and capacity of someone or something, because on our own, we can't. We can't pursue God in college. And I want to look at a verse that's going to unpack that and make that a little more clear. And then I'm going to give you some guidance on how we really can do this. So it comes from this verse, Ephesians 2, 1 through 4. It starts like this. It says, and you were dead in your transgressions or trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, following the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience, among whom we all once lived in the passions of our flesh, carrying out the desires of the body and the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, like the rest of mankind. So each and every one of us, we're kind of born into this world, and man, we have a sin nature, man, that locks us into a pattern, and that we're powerless to break through on our own. You kind of see in that verse, this, man, we were dead in our trespasses and sin. And man, for us, when we even enter into college, man, we're already at a place where it's an impossibility, man, because we're dead in our trespasses and sin. Man, we're powerless to overcome that even on our own. But it's crazy because this verse goes on and actually gives us, man, a picture of how we really can pursue Christ in college. And it goes like this. It says, but God, being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace, you have been saved. See that word grace? Man, it's unmerited favor. Man, it's something that God gave us, man, that we couldn't produce on our own. It's something that we didn't earn, but man, that God wants to give us, man, if we'll surrender to him, if we'll come to him. You see, that grace is powerful in our lives. And that's really the way that we can have a relationship with God in college, is because God's power makes it possible. God's power makes it possible. It's impossible on our own, but God's power really does make it possible. See, his grace teaches us something, and it teaches us how to live the life of following Christ, even in the context of college. I love Titus 2, verse 11. It says, for the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age. Now, I love how it says in this present age. It doesn't say, man, in the future. It says in this present age, right now, that we can live godly, upright lives as a result of God's grace and his power at work in our lives. And so tonight I want to give us just a snapshot of 3 different ways that grace works in our lives, 3 different ways that his power enables us to follow Christ in college. And so the first one is this: he provides the people. He provides the people. That grace that's at work in our life, that power that works in that's at work in our life, and God really does provide the people for us to be able to do it. I see so many times when people man, having apprehensions to have a relationship with God. Because one of the fears that, if we're honest, as we think about pursuing Christ, is like, man, am I going to be doing this alone? Is there anybody else, who's kind of doing this, people that can do this alongside? And it makes sense, we don't want to do things by ourselves. And there's a kind of a fear and a stepping out and saying, hey, I want to pursue Christ. And because we're looking to our left and right saying, is there anybody here with me? And it's crazy because the Bible speaks to this, and it says that when we're born again, we're born into the family of God when we surrender to Christ. I love 1 Peter 2, verse 4. It says, as you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God, and precious to him, you also, like living stones, plural, are being built into a spiritual house. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possessions, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness, being dead to sin, into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. And I love right there at the end when it says, once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. You see, when we trust Christ, when we begin to follow him, God graciously provides us with people in our life and to help us grow, to help us take steps towards maturity. I even think about, for me, I was getting recruited out of Houston. This is kind of my rival's profile. I was a 3-star, one 5-star, you know what I'm saying? I was close though, I was like one tackle away. And I was a 3-star, man, coming out of Houston, Texas, and I was stepping into the recruiting season. And so all these different schools were kind of knocking on my door saying, hey, come play here, come play here. They're sending me letters and all this stuff. And coaches were sitting at my dinner table and talking to my mom and, all these different things. And I remember one of the things that I wanted to see is I wanted to go up to the schools and I actually wanted to see the people that were there. I wanted to walk on campus. I wanted to talk to the fans. I wanted to communicate with the coaches. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that is because I cared so much about who I was going to spend the next 4 to 5 years with. I didn't want to go into a situation where I felt excluded or like I didn't fit. So I wanted to be a place where I felt at home. Where I was accepted or where I fit in. And some of us have took college visits, and just in general, just as students, we were on campus looking around and checking things out and saying, hey, is this a place that I can really fit in? Is this a place that is a good fit for me personally? And when I think about, that, and I think about, God and what he wants to do in our life, it makes total sense. God, when he recruits us, when he invites us into his family, when he says, hey, come follow me, and we're not going to be left alone. There's not going to be, it's always a good fit for us. There's always people, around who are going to help us and to take steps to grow in our relationship with God. I think this quote kind of sums it up really well. It says this, it says, as a newborn baby breathes and cries, so the signs of life in a newborn Christian are faith and repentance. That's when we surrender to Christ. Inhaling the love of God and exhaling an initial cry of distress. And at that point, what God provides exactly as for a newborn infant is the comfort, protection, and nurturing promise of a family. You think about it. When babies are born, they're born into this world, and usually there's a family around them loving on them, and they're taking care of them, they're nursing them, and they're loving them. It's like, and there's a care and a nurturing that goes along with being born into this world. And I love how he compares it to the Christian life. He says, if God is our Father, the body of believers is our family. It is as impossible, unnecessary, and undesirable to be a Christian all by yourself as it is to be a newborn baby all by yourself. You see, God, when we're born into the family of God, when we do surrender to him, when we trust him, when we say, I'm going to follow you right now in college, and God provides us with a family, with people around us, and to help us take those steps forward. And just like a newborn baby, and he puts us in a family. The question for us is, he provides the people, but are we willing to press in to his people? Will you press in to his people? He's promised us he's going to provide the people, but will we press in to the people? And for some of us, we've already been growing our relationship with God. You already have people around you, who have been kind of trying to help you grow in your faith. I want to challenge you, have you been pressing into those people? Have you been, growing alongside people, Have you been asking questions? Maybe you've been inviting people into your life, opening up and saying, hey, let's push each other, to grow in our relationship with Christ. But for others of us, we haven't surrendered to Christ. And then honestly, there's people around you in this room, even, who want to help you grow and who want to help you take steps forward in your relationship with God. Some of you all are, in a sense, looking at your future family members. It might be good, man, to say, hey, man, I want to, man, grow alongside these people and see what it might look like for me to surrender to Christ and trust in Him. Secondly, first, He provides the people. Second, He provides the strength. He provides the strength. A lot of for people I talk to sometimes with the apprehension for following Christ in college is that they're like, man, inwardly, like I can't deal, man, with this sin and this temptation in my life. And you don't know, like you don't know about, man, all the temptations that I have on a day-to-day basis. Man, you don't know, man, the things that I've been through. You don't know the addictions, that I have in my life. You know what I mean? It's like, man, we don't trust that God really does provide the strength. But it's crazy when you look at Scripture, man, He really does. If we surrender to Him, man, He promises that He's going to provide us with the strength. I love 2 Corinthians 1. It says, now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us, set His seal of ownership on us, and He put His Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. And I love how He attaches Himself to this promise. He says, hey, as surely as I am God, if you come to me, if you surrender to me, I will put my power in you. Look at this. It says it's seal of ownership. He says it's a guarantee that I'm putting my word. Man, if you come to me, man, if you surrender to me, man, it's a guarantee that I will give you the power to follow me. If you think about it, it makes sense. I was kind of thinking about, I'm originally from Houston, and so it kind of was a big deal in Houston. Houston's known for, being a space city. And so, we sent a bunch of, rockets to the moon and stuff like that. And so our teams were named the Rockets and, the Comets and the Astros and stuff like that. We used to have a theme park that was called Astroworld, but that got torn down. But I heard Travis Scott made an album about it. I don't know. And the big thing for us was space, and it's crazy, when I was doing research on this, it's crazy, man, how much even some of these projects cost, to kind of send into space. And so, man, there was kind of a point where the U.S. government was like, hey, our mission is we're going to go to the moon. Okay? They were like, we're going to go to the moon, and it doesn't matter what it costs us. And so I want y'all to guess, how much do you think it costs for us to build a rocket and go to the moon? How much do you think it costs? $54 billion. $54 billion. Crazy. Crazy. Think about this. Think about this. We have American soldiers, we're sending them out, to war and stuff like that. Usually we send them out on a mission. They got a mission to accomplish. How much do you think it costs to outfit one U.S. soldier? So, one U.S. soldier, their outfit, their gun, everything else, how much do you think that costs? It costs about $20,000. $20,000 for one soldier. For one soldier. Hey, how about this? How about this? Jay-Z, okay, at one point he was like, him was going to be Beyonce and everything now, but at one point he had to get to the point where he was like, man, I want to marry Queen Bee, you know what I mean? I want her to be my wife, you know what I mean? That was kind of his mission in a sense. So how much do you all think he paid for that ring right there? What do y'all think he paid? about it, you know, if we have a mission, you know, the U.S. had a mission, you know, to go to the moon. The U.S. has a mission to send troops out, you know, and Jay-Z had a mission, you know, to marry Beyonce. And if you think about it, you're not going to go on a mission, you know, and not have the resources in order to accomplish it. If that makes sense. You're not gonna like, hey, try to marry the queen bee and like hand her a ring from the dollar store. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna work, you know? And similarly, you know, when God calls us and he says, hey, I want you to come to me and I want you to follow me. I want you to have a living, thriving relationship with me. Man, he's not going cheapo. He's gonna provide us with the strength. And he's gonna provide us with what we need, the resources to be able to follow him. And he said, by my spirit, I'm going to come, I'm going to live in you, I'm going to give you the strength and to be able to follow me. I love even how 1 Corinthians 10:13 kind of sums it up. It says, no temptation inwardly has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He's faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. And God says, when you come follow me, man, I'll always provide. I'll always give you a way, and I'll always give you the strength. So you can choose to give into it, but if you tap into my strength, and I'm going to give you what you need in order to follow me in college. You know, and he's promising us that the strength is there, but man, are we willing to tap into it? So I want to give us an example of what this kind of looked like for one of my friends. So Gabe is a DU at K-State, and I think, man, I want you to listen to this story because this story is going to illustrate for us a little bit of like what this strength looks like in somebody's life. So give it up for Gabe as he makes his way out.
There is. So I remember a time, my freshman year in college, where honestly, the idea of following Christ was kind of impossible to me. You know, it wasn't the fact that I didn't have the resources or the people around me. At the end of the day, it was because I was pretty content with where I was at. You know, I remember a time, my freshman year, almost exactly 3 years ago, it was right after the career fair. I was walking out of an internship interview. I was on the way to go hang out with my girlfriend at the time, and we were just gonna hang out until we went and hung out with some buddies that night. And like at the time, I was pretty content. So fast forward to that summer then, I remember I was sitting in my car and I was debating this decision of, man, is it possible for me to follow Christ in college? Like, should I make that decision right now? Because that entire previous year, you know, faith had become something that had gone on my radar. You know, I was growing a lot in my faith, I was taking steps to learn more about my faith, but also at the same time, on the side, I started to rush fraternities. You know, I was living in the dorms at the time, I was like, hey, I want to join a fraternity next year, let's make that a part of my life. And I remember sitting in this car, debating this decision, going, man, I know I want to follow Christ in college. You know, I know I want to make that a part of my life. I want it to be central to my life, but can I even do this? You know, can I, like, I think at one point I was like, crap, can I actually follow Christ in my fraternity? I was like, is that possible for me to do? And so on that drive back home, I said yes. But it came about a month later where I had to kind of put my money where my mouth was. Because I remember very, very vividly, it was the first party that my fraternity had. And I was sitting there getting ready to drive some people home, and then all of a sudden, you know, I went back inside to grab someone, and I saw a bunch of people from the summer beforehand doing things that didn't really glorify God. You know, these are the people who, kind of like Blake said, were going to be my people. And it was really discouraging for me to see this. You know, hey, hold on a second, I just lost some of the people that were going to be my encouragers. And I remember feeling like really, really sad, really discouraged, and honestly at that time I was like, well, should I just do the same then? Like, what's going on? But thankfully, like Blake said, you know, God provides the people. I remember stepping out of the party and calling a good buddy of mine. His name was Austin. He led my group that past summer. And I remember calling him and just being like, hey, you know, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm struggling with. Like, what do I do? And it was awesome getting to just call him and process through that with him and having him just encourage me the entire time and really kind of set me on that path to pursuing Christ in my fraternity now and in college. And so fast forward even a little bit more to spring break that year. So this is an interesting story, not the best decision I've ever made, but I decided my pledge class was like, hey, we're gonna go spend spring break in Padre. We're going. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so pretty much I very gladly accepted. I was like, let's do it, I'll drive, it's gonna be great. And so I remember being down there in Padre and kind of being surrounded by all the things that I was. That's when the decision really hit me. It was like, man, you know, am I going to turn, towards the things of the world? Am I going to pretty much become the freshman year of myself, or freshman year version of myself again? Because I have the opportunity to turn and kind of pursue the things of the world around me. It's like, or am I going to take this decision right now and pursue Christ? Am I going to trust in Him and trust in what He's going to do with my life in this fraternity house? It was really interesting because I very vividly remember just the sheer amount of just resources and help that God provided in that situation. I remember I had guys texting me every single day, at least once a day, trying to see where I was at in my walk with God, seeing how I was doing when we went out to do stuff on the beach, seeing how I was doing when I was hanging out with guys in the place that we were staying. And I also, very, very, and super thankful for this one worker. It was a Whataburger that was across the street, 20 yards away from where we were staying. And every single morning I'd wake up, go there, and that's where I read my Bible. And God bless the Whataburger worker who saw me read my Bible and gave me a free coffee every single morning because, absolute sin. I wish I had read her card or something. But it was those instances right there where, it really showed me, hey, God wants to support you in this. God wants you to be pursuing, me in college. And it really became very prevalent right there, the fact that it was possible for me to follow Christ in college. Blake used this verse earlier, 1 Corinthians 10:13, but I absolutely love that verse. It says that God is not going to expose you, He's not going to tempt you more than you can handle. And that even at the same time, and even more, He's always going to provide a way out. And so taking a look at the experiences in my life, what He's done in my life, what He's provided for me, it's become so much more prevalent that, hey, it is possible for me to do this, no matter what setting you pick me up and drop me in, I can follow Christ wherever I go. And so the only thing that I wish I would have done earlier was made a decision earlier, to trust in Him earlier, and or taking advantage of the resources earlier. But yeah, thanks guys.
I appreciate it. Shout out to that Whataburger lady, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I love Whataburger, by the way. Sorry. Anyway, thanks for illustrating to us, man, what it looks like to press into His strength. And that really is a question for every single one of us, right? It's like, and God has promised that He's going to provide the strength. But the question really for us is this: are we going to tap into that strength? And for some of us, we've been following God or having a relationship with God for a while, and we need to think about, man, God has given us the resources. He said, hey, man, I'm going to pack my power, man, in my word, and you can come to me in prayer. Are you taking advantage of those resources and saying, hey, and I'm coming to you in the word, in prayer, learning what it means to walk with you so I can draw strength from God? But then for others of us in this room, man, we haven't really surrendered to Christ yet. And I want to kind of unpack this. It's like, man, you're probably thinking, man, I know I'm messing up in this area, but man, I'm just going to kind of clean this area. I know I did that, man, last week, but man, that's going to be the last time. You're thinking, man, I've had this addiction for a while, but I'll just kind of mull over, man. It'll go away, it'll fade. And I want to tell you, you cannot do it. You can't. You're powerless. Just as we talked about earlier, because of sin, and you're dead in your sin, you cannot do it on your own. The only way for you to tap into His strength is for you to surrender your life to Christ, for you to begin to follow Him. And for some of us, tapping into His strength just means making that decision to say, hey, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give my life to you. So that's the second point. First, He provides the people. Second, He provides the strength. And lastly, He provides the time. Lastly, He provides the time. This one was one that was kind of personal for me because, man, I was so busy with engineering and football, and I just kind of thought about my schedule, and I was like, man, there's no way I can make time, in a sense, for God in my schedule. But man, I see this with people around me all the time. And they're like, hey, dude, I'd love to, look into this. I'd love to take the time to read the Bible. I'd love to do that, but I just don't have the time. But man, God promises us that He is going to provide the time for us. And it kind of makes sense. And if He's God, He's in control of everything. And He's going to be able to provide the time. You kind of look at it in Acts 17, verse 26, and this explains it well. It says, from one man He made all the nations, they should inhabit the whole earth, and He marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their land. He says, marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their land. For God, it's no surprise that you're at K-State. It's no surprise that you're living in the dorms. It's no surprise that you're in that fraternity or that sorority. It's no surprise to Him that your major is tough. This is a test week. It's like, and that's no surprise for Him. And He appointed the times. Man, He knows, man, each and every one of us intimately. You know, even look at Matthew 10, and it makes it even more personal. It says this, it says, "Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside of your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid, you're worth more than many sparrows." You know, it's like, man, you get down to the level of, man, the number of hairs on your head. And God knows you, and that intimately, He knows what's going on in your life. And He wouldn't call you to follow Him, man, and not provide you with the time to be able to do so. You know, you kind of talk about the hairs in the head. I got some curly hairs, and I'm like, dude, it's a lot of hairs. It's a lot of hairs in that. You know what I mean? But God is that personal with us, and He cares deeply about us. You know, you think about it really, you kind of back up and think about, man, what's going on the college campus, and this is kind of typically what's going on. You know, it's like, man, this is our schedule, and it says, now this might be bare minimum for some of us, it may be more, for some of us, it might be a little bit less, but this is kind of what our class schedule looks like. And we got studying and everything in between there, but I just want to put the class schedule on there. And you kind of look at it, and there's the classes and stuff like that, but there's a lot of space, you know, in that schedule. And you know, you got extracurriculars and everything else going on. But man, I guarantee you, man, if we sat down and looked at each and one of our schedules, we'd be surprised at how much time there actually is. You know, on a day-to-day basis, man, in between stuff, man, in between classes, etc., etc. And we have a good amount of time, especially when you begin to think about what's coming up next. And so in about 5 to 6 years, hopefully not 6, but let's stick to 5, you know what I'm saying? But 5 years for most of us, man, we're going to be in the workforce. And so our schedule is going to look something like this. You know, it's like, man, just being real. You got to work, man. Got to eat. Okay, you got to work. You know, yeah, that's 9 to 5. That's cool. And so you begin to think about it, and it's like, man, all of a sudden, man, the time factor, especially when it relates to college, it comes in focus because, man, really, when you think about the rest of your life, man, you'll never have as much time as you do in college. And this really does become the ideal time to follow Christ, because you have the time, and you have the time to be able to do it. And God not only provides the time, but man, college just in and of itself, man, you have the time. And man, I want to challenge us with this, and in Ephesians 5, it says, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil." And we have an opportunity during this 4-year window. It's a unique season in life. And you'll never have another season like this, man, in the future, man, where you have, man, this amount of time, man, to investigate your faith. And I want to encourage you, man, make the most of the opportunity. The days really are evil. We have the time to be able to look into it now. He really does provide the time. But I want to challenge us to think about, man, are we willing to make the time? Are we willing to make the time? You know, what would it look like to say, hey, God, I'm going to give you this period of time in my day. I'm going to make sure, man, I give you this time and to spend in your word. You know, some of us, you know, we haven't surrendered to Christ yet. You know, man, you haven't been fully committed to a relationship with Him. I would say, man, go ahead and start blocking out time now. Man, go ahead and say, hey, man, I'm going to dedicate this time, man, to Bible study. I'm going to get in the Word, you know, with one of my friends, and y'all are doing a great job. Y'all are here at STUMO, and I would come to STUMO, check out things like this. And I would say, hey, man, begin to look at your schedule and say, hey, man, where can God fit in my schedule? One of my older friends challenged me with this. He was like, man, you say you follow God, you say you have a relationship with Him. Can I tell by looking at your schedule? You know, I think for some of us, man, we need to begin to think about that, man, if we're going to begin to follow Christ and have a relationship with Him. It might mean we have to say no to some good things to say yes to the best things. If we want to have a relationship with Him, and there's no better time than now. The other thing about college that's kind of unique is we have breaks. So, you know, we have like Christmas break, you know, which is like a month long, and then we have like summer break, you know, which is like roughly 3 months long. And you know, we've been kind of talking about it over the last couple of weeks, but man, I would encourage each of you, man, in the future you won't have like breaks over the winter, or you won't have breaks during the summer. Man, I would encourage you to begin to think about, hey, how can I invest my breaks now? And so, man, opportunities like SMC, man, coming up, man, over this winter break, January 2nd through the 5th, man, I would check that out and say, hey, how can I invest that time now, man, to really grow in my relationship with God? Man, next week, Joel is talking about this kind of topic right here, man, that this unique time during our time in college. And he's going to unpack the question of why we shouldn't wait. man, how investing our time and in our relationship with God now in college really is going to impact the rest of our life. And so I would encourage y'all to even check that out, man, because I'm convinced that it really is, man, the best investment of our time right now if we're willing to press in and make the time. So I want you all to kind of discuss this question, man. Of these three, in a sense, which one do you need to trust God for? And so for you personally, and as you think about it, which one do you need to trust God for? And then how can you take a step forward in trusting Him in that area? You all, following Christ in college is possible, but it's only possible if you surrender to Him, if you follow Him. His power really does make it possible. And so go ahead and discuss these questions.